Lucas Panzica. Lucas, the rewind button to the beginning of yesterday's show. Could we just hit? What did we say at the beginning of yesterday's show?
You said it. You said it, Mickey Ryan. I'll let Bishop, you give yourself the clout.
Blaine Bishop has been saying for like 3 months, hey, man, when are they going to sign a veteran kicker? Like, I'll be waiting for that signing. So yesterday they go out and they kick 6 out of 10 combined, 60%. That's after 71.4% last year in the regular season, which was 31st. And that was after 44.4% in 2019 when everybody kicked for them but Lucas, Blaine, and me. And so we're just trying to solve problems. We're problem solvers on this show. So for 2 hours a day, we're just like a spot you can go to on the radio or podcast or app or wherever you're listening and just know that problems get solved here for 2 hours a day. So I'm like, hey, man, what about James Wilhoit? He's local. That's his whole thing is coaching kickers. Because Blaine, who played 10 years in the NFL, if you're new to this show, has always said, I don't know what to do with kickers. I would just tell them, go kick a lot. Like what? You need a specialist, like a kicker doctor.
That's what I said, specialist. And you came up with James Wilhoit. And all of a sudden, Vrabel was talking about James Wilhoit today. Man, are you privately working for the organization as they're leasing you?
With an option to buy. They're leased like the rubber gloves in Fletch.
All jokes aside, I thought this was a great move that was suggested by yours truly, Mickey Ryan. Great decision. Now, is it just for during this, training camp or is it during the season? Because, I love kickers. Aldo Greco is one of my best friends, and I would always just make sure you stay away from him and support him because there's no way in the heck I could do that job. And it's a tough job, especially a team like us where we lived and died by the field goal and the kicker. Is this something continually they need mental support? I mean, really in-game type situations and someone there for them. I really believe that. And I think this is a great strategic move in that you're trying to develop and speed up the process of developing young kickers by having a kicking coach or specialist there to help them throughout. So I think this is a great move. It shows that they're all in, that they're really trying to go with one of these two guys until they disappoint. It really, because this is the only other move is you can say you bring in a veteran, even if it's after, the season starts or after the preseason is over and say, with neither one of those guys can really make it. And to me, if you've gone that far, you might as well just wait and see what happens in a regular season game and hope for the best, right? No, I do not want to hope for the best with a kicker. Young kicker. No way. Just think, if Gronkowski had been a young kicker, they might have given up on him. But his past history told you, okay, this guy has shown that he is a legitimate clutch kicker. And then he got through, the rough patch of, coming off of surgery, hip surgery and everything else, which is a interesting surgery when you're a kicker. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he was booming it like he was back in New England. So I'm excited for them to make this move and that they're, hopefully doing the best they can do to help these guys be successful in the league and help the team out. So we shall see. But hey, man, gotta pat Mickey Ryan on the back on that suggestion of actually the specialist coach. I mean, I've been talking about I'd bring in another coach because I don't know nothing about kicking. You said the actual name of the coach. And you need to tell James Wilhoit, do you get a finder's fee or something by making that happen? I mean, man, good Lord, man, you are in tight, man. I'm going to just call you Mickey / Blaine and Mickey show / assistant GM, head coach / yeah, specialist.
Thank you. Yes, part-time.
Nah, it's cool,
well,
man. It's big time.
Here's the thing about Will Hoyt too, and it goes back to what you were saying about these two guys.
Great guy too, and does a great job working with the kickers all across the country. So yeah,
absolutely has worked with kickers at my school. Probably no matter what school you like, he's maybe worked with somebody who's kicking at your school too. The guy is on the short list for anybody who wants help with this. It's $1 billion league. They can throw a few more $1,000 to try to solve the kicking coach thing. I mean,
well worth it.
This is so worth it. And here's the other thing, and this goes back to a point that you were making. I'm trying to make notes here. Then I kind of got to feeling too good when you were calling me all those nice names, like associate GM. But if you're getting close to the end of camp, you can go to Will Hoyt and you could say, is this the best we're going to get from these guys?
Yeah.
Is this just who they are? Let's say it's not going well, because this isn't just some guy who also is trying to guide a gunner and some guy who's trying to align, a punt return, which is what Ackerman has to do. This is a guy who's only in the head of kickers. And you can go to that guy, like you could go to me and you could ask me about base players. And I could probably give you some pretty good insight on base players, because that's what I know. I've been a base player for 30-something years. Well, it's the same with Will Hoyt. They can go to him, Blaine, and they could say, is this the best we're going to get from these guys? Here's all their kicks charted. You're with them every day. You talk to them. Is this the best we're going to get? If so, do we need to make a move? And this is a guy who knows, yep, right now for these guys, this is who they are. Or no, this kicker A or kicker B, they can go so much better, and they will, and here's what we're working on. I think he can not only coach the kickers, I think he can give the coaches some unbelievable insight in those meetings of like, here's where this guy is, and here's where this guy is, and here's how he's progressing or not progressing.
Yeah. And it also even goes deeper, Mickey, just to add to what you just said. I completely agree with that. But he talked about today rest. See, I would be that ding dong to be like, you're the kicker. You can kick every day. The receivers are catching balls every day. The DBs are backpedaling every day. Why can't you kick? The quarterbacks are throwing every day. Why can't you kick every day? Well, that's how you make a good kicker leg go dead. See, so I would need to know that. I would think he could kick every day. It's just like playing kickball. Come on.
Right. Hey, man, the quarterbacks throw every day. Why aren't you go kick?
Yeah, see, and so that's why I said I know nothing about how to manage the workload and how much they're kicking and working on their steps and footwork and timing with your long snapper and the holder. I mean, it's a really interesting, position, man, because there's just one little thing could go wrong and we all don't pay attention to the extra point or field goal. Oh man, all we see is the result. He missed or made it. We don't care about any of that. And there's a lot of things in there. The ball was a little high or inside and threw off the timing of the kicker and the holder. I mean, man, so first of all, you got to get resolved that they can actually be the kicker in the National Football League and be consistent enough to help the team out when needed. So that hey, so I applaud them to make this hire that Mickey Ryan requested. I really do, because you have to have an open mind when you're in an organization, and not to say that they really thought they might have been thinking about this, all jokes aside, and then they say, you know what, let's just kind of give somebody who's really an expert at this, and then listen to them, and then make our decision then, and that probably could be after the preseason. So I think that's how you make decisions when, you're the big boys and, you're the head coach or GM or owner, CEO of any company. So, yeah, I applaud them, and I really like this move. So if you're going to go this way, let's make sure we cross, and dot our I's here to make sure we get the right kicker in here if it's going to be one of these guys.
Look, I'm not one to say this is the move that wins you the Super Bowl. I'm not that guy, but I am this guy. Look at what Nick Saban does, Blaine. Okay, we'll add Butch Jones as an analyst. Okay, we'll just add every guy that gets fired as an analyst. We got money. We can pay them. Well, the Titans have money. The NFL has money. We'll just add all these guys. And he's pulled from those analysts, and they've become, they've moved up the ladder, and guys have left. And Saban has said, this is the guy that figured this out. This is the guy that brought this in. He's not afraid to try anything new. Now, think about it. And you've talked about even the way he coaches, even the type of players they were getting. Like, instead of just huge mammoth guys on defense, they got faster. He's even changed the way they recruit and the way they kind of build their guys and how they work in the strength and conditioning. Those are things you pointed out. I credit the Titans for saying, we need real eyes on this who know what they're doing. It's a few $1,000s or whatever you're paying James Wilhoit. Get him in here.
75,000 square foot wing? I do not like my, 3,000 square foot wing, but 75,000. So, hey, when she goes big, when she makes a decision, she goes big. Yep, that's what she said. Yes. Yes.
I think there's like a parking garage now.
Yeah.
Like, there was a picture of people walking out of a parking garage. They're just, okay, yeah. I mean, literally, she's like, okay, what do we need? A parking? Because people need to understand. those aren't cheap. Like, this is not like you added, a porch on the back of your house.
No.
They're just
no.
75,000 feet in a parking garage. And James Wilhoit. I mean, it just never stops over there.
Yeah.
It just never stops with her.
And ultimately, you don't want this kicking situation to be the reason why you're not advanced as far as you want to make it, and that's to the Super Bowl and win it. So whether it's be a home field advantage, a game during the regular season, as I said yesterday, or a miss, an extra point in a playoff game just because, you just shanked it or whatever. So just want to make sure if you go down this route, and it's still possibly it could happen, you did everything in your possibility as a staff to make sure that we did the best we could do. You can't make the kicks for them, but you make the best decision, for your organization. And I think that's the route they're going down right now. So yeah, man, I'm actually excited. And I never get excited about like a kicking coach or something, kicking anything. I just like, that's just something I just don't know anything about. My hand, I beat and pulled a hamstring trying to kick a ball. I told you I couldn't even make a 20-yard field goal. So, hey, I was good friends with me and Al Del Greco since that was one guy that I was taller than.
Touche.
And so we had a kinship just because of that, and walking out there looking like we were big brutes out there as the captains. and we would stand in the middle, and we let Bruce Matthews on one end and then Eddie George on the other end. And we were like, yeah, man, y'all not going to beat us. We're the two biggest, baddest dudes right here. Yeah, right. That's how it used to be. And they look at us like, man, this team is small.
Hey, Lucas is going to be on our butt to take this commercial break, but you mentioned Bruce Matthews. In a pinch, could he have been the kicker? Because you always talk about him like he could do anything. Could he have been the kicker?
Dude, hey, I heard Buck talking about the best athletes on the team. Bruce Matthews, the living legend, would have been the best athlete of all time in Oiler Titan history. This dude was back there catching like 10 punt returns. I mean, he caught I couldn't even. Man, I could catch maybe two, maybe. Like when I say two, he's got one ball in the arm, and then he's going to catch another ball, and then he caught another ball, then he caught another one, and he still has all the other footballs in his arms. I'm like, what the heck? And so it was like, Bruce can't play if it was decided who's going to run and who drops the balls, and they use an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman. That's unfair. He could catch them better than the skilled guys. So he was phenomenal. He could play quarterback, punt, kick. He played every position on offensive line. Shoot, he could probably play tight end. Man, this guy's phenomenal, man. There's nothing. He was one of a kind. He's a different breed, man. He was different, man. Dude, man. And the nicest guy you would ever want to meet, man. I mean, his personality was like Mickey Ryan. Like he would be. He would hurt a fly, unless he turns into H-Town Mickey. So I'm sure that's what Bruce would do on game day. But he was so serious. I got to tell you this. He would knock somebody down and deplete him, right? I'm like, dang, he destroyed that guy. And so he comes to the sideline, and I just say, hey, man, I just want to ask you, this is what's going on in the game. During the game, he's like, hey, man, what's going on, man? Hey, why did you help him up? Why did you help that guy up that you knocked on his fanny? He says, oh, I was just helping him up because I told him you're going to be getting up a lot, so I was going to help you up this time. What? Somebody would have told me I'm going to be helping you up a lot. You're going to be getting down there a lot. I'm going to get you this time. I would be like so hot. I would be so mad. And he said it with the coolest, calmest, and that's how you knew it was real. Yeah, man, that's how it's gonna be a long day for him. I'm like, huh? I walked away with like 50 billion question marks and exclamation marks above my head. Like, what the heck is going on with this dude? Then I watched him again, and he up there knocking 2 or 3 dudes down. Like, dang, on one play.
Okay. I'm going to catch my breath.
Unbelievable.
We got to take a break. When we come
Look
back.
at my face. I am not laughing.
You're not. I know you're serious. When we come back, Fox 17, they got a new anchor reporter doing sports, Jill Jelnick, straight out of, hey, man, not H-Town, but San Antonio, Texas. We got lots to get to. Get her impressions on the Titans, on Nashville, all that. The newest TV reporter for sports in town. Jill Jelnick next on Blaine and Mickey.
Fox.
We love Titans football. Actually, it's close to borderline obsessive, and well, we're okay with that. The Titans Station, 104.5, The Zone.
Well, I've been talking about my friends at PAI Medical for quite a while now, and I just keep stressing the TV world. Blaine's done some TV. We were busting on Lucas because he was talking to you, but he left the button pressed down so we could hear him talking to you.
Button got jammed.
It's not your fault. We totally blame the button.
No, it's always your fault. It has nothing to do with the button.
Blame it on the button.
But Jill, you know
Come on, guys.
To be a good team.
This is my first week, and I'm already in trouble.
No, you are not in trouble. Only Lucas. But when you're a TV anchor, there's always somebody talking in your ear the whole time. And in my experience was they were always saying, "Hey, we've got to cut some of your time. We're going to drop your fourth story. Oh, we're going to drop your third story." It was that kind of thing. I know they never do that to you.
Man, they were talking in my ear while I was talking. I'm like, this is not going to work.
And it's never good. Whatever they're saying in your ear, like you said, Mickey, it's never a good thing. And so all you know is, even if you can't hear what they're saying, you're just like, oh man, we're going down. We're going down. It is hard. It is hard sometimes. I'm just glad I didn't talk crap about you guys on air. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah, that's really good. Now, I'm going to say, I feel like I'm kind of not worthy to join this discussion. I may just need to let you and Blaine talk because he's a former Titan. He's a Division I athlete. Well, it turns out you're also a college softball player. Maybe you guys just need to tell some old, sports stories to each other.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Blaine, when you have a 10-year NFL career, that's kind of a big deal. And clearly, Blaine, you being in Nashville, I'm a big fan, and I'm really excited to be covering your former team. But yes, I did play college softball at East Carolina University. Go Pirates. I am from California originally, so I literally went from the West Coast to the East Coast just to play college softball. And I'll tell you this quick story. This is how they hooked me. I wanted to play D1. I really didn't. The American Conference USA was when ECU was there from when I played. And I went to an ECU game, ECU versus Marshall. I was tailgating, and I'm going through this parking lot, and I'm like, whoa, like we don't have this in Southern California. We don't have this for UCLA, USC, not to the magnitude of the South, right? And I just remember looking as I'm going through all these tailgates, and there's a pig head on a stake with pig feet and pig hands. And I was like, that's it. I'm in. Count me in. This is what I want my college experience to be like. And that was easily one of the best decisions I've ever made. So there you go.
Oh, wow. That's pretty awesome.
No doubt. Welcome to God's country. Jill Jelnick, she joins us, Fox 17 sports anchor and reporter, just got here from Texas, and she joins Blaine and me right now.
Yes, Jill, thanks for coming on. I know you came from Texas. Were you in the San Antonio, Dallas, or Houston area? Were you in San Antonio area?
Yes, sir. I was in San Antonio covering the one and only Coach Pop and the San Antonio Spurs. But I came from a 30-minute sports show that we had in San Antonio, which was a little unprecedented. And because of that, I got to go to Dallas and cover the Cowboys, as well as Houston and cover the Astros and Texans. So I definitely got a good tour of Texas while I was down there the last 3 years. And, being at Titans training camp this week, I've been drawing a lot of comparisons to Oxnard Cowboys camp. I was fortunate enough to cover Cowboys camp 2018, 2019. And I'm telling you, Jerry Jones, he puts on a show over there. It's almost like it's so glamorous what the Cowboys do. It's so funny. And then all this week at Titans training camp at St. Thomas Sports Park, it's all business. It's all business. The players are getting after it. There's no celebrities on the side. There's, obviously there's no fans this year. So that obviously has a huge impact on it. But the comparison between the two training camps has been so interesting. And I think for me, shooting on the sideline and getting to know the Titans players and what they look like, that's been really fun. And it's only been my first week on the job.
No doubt about it. We're with Jill Jelnick, with sports anchor Fox 17. I guess tell little people about the river walk. I mean, I used to go to training camp, and that river walk, I'm sure it's way better now, but I'm sure there's a lot of other things to do in San Antonio too. But man, that was like the big thing there in San Antonio.
Oh, and it still is. It's not quite the magnitude of Broadway, but it would be the equivalent in San Antonio. And I will tell you this, I already missed Tex-Mex, the Mexican food over there, and the margaritas. Those are some pretty good margaritas. So if y'all have a good margarita spot here in Nashville, please let me know.
No doubt about it. We're on with Jill Jelnick with Fox 17. I guess one more for me before I give it back to Mickey, and that is, what kind of advice would you give to young ladies who are trying to get into the industry? They're in college now. Any advice to give them, about the industry and how to kind of move throughout it and, maybe do some interns and everything else? I don't know what your storyline is. Kind of take us through what maybe you did, and maybe that's some of the things that you would recommend to some other ladies.
Absolutely. No, that's a great question. And it's definitely the question I get the most in terms of what kind of advice would you give? And this goes for both men and women. My biggest thing is keep an open mind. You're so young, you're going through college, you're trying to navigate through being a young adult. You got a lot going on, and you may think you want to go this way, or you're interested in this. Do an internship and take a chance on something you think you might be interested in, either during college or coming out of college, because you never know. I real quick to tell you my story, when I was at ECU, I got my master's in teaching. The plan was to be a high school English teacher, high school softball coach. I wanted to be the first female athletic director in Orange County. And one day when I was teaching in the classroom, I missed athletics and I missed being part of a team. And I went to my counselor. I was like, hey, listen, I think I'm not supposed to go into teaching just yet. I don't know. And she said, well, you can talk well. You have great communication skills, literacy skills, writing skills, sports, and you talk a lot. Have you ever considered sports broadcasting? And I said, no, never in my life. And keep in mind, this is when I'm 22, right? I'm finishing my grad school degree, and I happened to pop over into the local CBS station right there in Greenville, and the sports director welcomed me with open arms. He remembered me from softball, and I'm telling you guys, day 2 of that internship, and I was like, crap, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. And that was the turning moment for me. And so my biggest advice is, if you think you're interested in sports broadcasting, if you think you want to be on camera, if you think you just want to do something with sports media, give it a shot, do an internship, and at the very least, if you know you don't like it, cross it off, move on to the next one. But you got to keep an open mind. So that's my biggest advice.
We're just listening to the advice of Jill Jelnick with sports anchor with Fox 17.
Yeah, my college counselor was like, hey, man, do you think you could get out of here any sooner? We've seen all of you that we ever want to see. Her advice was, hey, can you leave quicker? But luckily you got some great advice and you're following the right path, because we know you're doing a great job over at Fox. So let me ask you this. Titans fans, Jill, and you're new. So this is this is kind of a great social experiment here. Like, Titans fans always say, nobody respects this team. They get no respect nationally. Derrick Henry's the king, and people always say he's the 3rd best running back, and Ryan Tannehill's not on anybody's top 10 list. So you obviously had outside perspective on the team from covering the Texans. Now that you've been here and covered the team, I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on, gosh, maybe these guys are a little underrated, or maybe they are who I heard they were. How is all that?
That's a great question, Mickey. And you're right. Having come from South Texas and the Texans and watching the last couple of seasons, the Titans are quickly gaining the respect, especially in that division. They're coming off the division championship, right? And I think maybe you walk back as far as maybe even 3 years ago, and I think the big change was the change from Malarkey to Vrabel. Vrabel was coming in from the Texans, right? Under the Bill Belichick tree, he had a lot of experience and a lot of hype surrounding that. And he's done an amazing job since he's been there. So I really think having covered the Texans and following that division, that shift changed 3 years ago. And Titans have quickly started gaining that respect, absolutely, last year. And now, in my opinion, they're definitely the team to beat in that division, especially when you look at their off-season additions, as well as the overall health of the team. This is a team that's not only doing really well, but coming together really quickly. And it's going to be an exciting season to watch. I am so glad I came here when I did.
Jill Jelnick, our guest, absolutely. All right, let me ask you this. Let's put on your Texans hat for a second. People in local markets typically know a lot more about, okay, this is what we think is really going to happen with the situation. I'm not asking you to be an attorney or to give any kind of commentary on that, but just what do you think happens with Deshaun Watson this year? I think a lot of people thought he'd be on the commissioner's exempt list by now. He hasn't. I know he would be tough to trade right now because there are so many unknowns. Curious to get your thoughts on what might happen with him and the Texans this year as far as what you know.
Yeah, and that's been very interesting to watch because I agree with the rest of that group that thought he would be on the commissioner's exempt list as far as right now, but he's not, right? So I feel like we're in this part of a kind of a limbo, just waiting to see what happens. He showed up to camp, and I think that said something from his stance in terms of, okay, I'm running with this. We're going to work with this. But as far as the NFL goes, they have a really big decision to make. They got to figure out what they want to do with this because I don't see him being cleared anytime soon. I don't see a conclusion right before the start of the season, and so that's when that's why I think the next couple weeks are going to be so crucial for not just the Texans but the NFL to figure out what they want to do. It's tough. I'll be honest. I was a big Deshaun Watson fan, and same with Dak Prescott. I love the fact that I got to cover two of those top quarterbacks in the league, and they both have done a lot to help their communities. But when everything went down with Deshaun this summer, it was heartbreaking. And so right now, I think from a media perspective, I hope we figure out what's going on soon because I know that Texans team is really struggling right now. So very interesting topic for sure.
Yes, ma'am. At Jill Jelnick. You need to follow her on Twitter. She's with Fox 17 Sports, and she joins us now here on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, Jill, under the radar is naturally Dupree, who was on the PUP. But all of a sudden, he's showing up on the, I guess, close contact with COVID. And so he's on the COVID list too. Kind of explain to us what that actually means, because I have no idea. I'm not the brightest tooth in the nail.
Yes. Okay. So this is a great question and very important for fans to know because I think it's a bummer for Bud Dupree to come here, right? A lot of hype surrounding him. And then not only is he on the PUP list, he makes a second list and it's the COVID-19 list. And basically, guys, what that means is the team cannot disclose exactly what it is, but it's one of two things. He either tested positive for COVID-19 or he has been in close contact with someone that has had COVID-19. The rules are they cannot disclose which one of those two options it is, but because he is on that COVID-19 list, that means he either tested positive or has been in close contact with someone. But yeah, it is kind of, it's tough for Dupree. I think a lot of not just his team, but fans and us, we're looking forward to kind of seeing him. But then on that PUP list, which was a little bit expected, and then this. So not exactly a concrete timetable on when he'll be back, especially with him being on the PUP list as well. But that's what that means. One of those two things.
And lastly for me there, Jill, is I thought it was interesting that Tannehill kind of was open about, his, getting the vaccination. What were your thoughts when he was explaining it? He wanted to be around his teammates and the NFL was making it really difficult. But actually, did you ever even hear him say what was his reasoning behind waiting so long to get the vaccination? What was his concerns?
Yeah. So I was there at that press conference. That was Wednesday. Tannehill spoke the first day of practice, which was technically the second day of camp. And he volunteered kind of the information about him saying, quote, or about him admitting he would not have gotten the vaccination if the NFL rules weren't so extensive. And a reporter in the press conference followed up and said, would you mind kind of talking a little bit about how come you didn't want to get the vaccination? And Tannehill smiled and kind of laughed, and he said, you know what, I don't know if I want to get into all of that right now, so I'm going to pass. But then he followed up with the reason why he did get the vaccination, which was simply because he wanted to be there for his team. The rules say there's several new rules that say you can't eat with the rest of the team. If you're doing a strength and conditioning workout, you have to work out separate from the team with only a small group of players. The rules make it very difficult to create a team atmosphere, and Tannehill was adamant in making sure that as a huge leader on this Titans team, he wanted to be a part of every team activity as often as he could.
Good stuff. Thanks, Jill.
Well, Jill, the youth of America's loss is the sports world's gain. You know, you decided not to teach, but here you are. You're doing sports. You're hanging out with us. We appreciate it. Love the story, going from one coast to another, and then falling in love with the South. You know, Blaine and I, Blaine's an Indiana guy. I'm from Arkansas, so I'm actually north of where I grew up. Now, Blaine had to come down here. So I have one final question for you. And again, here's Jill's Twitter handle, @Jill Jelnick. You need to tell her all the great places where she can get Tex-Mex food and a margarita here. She came from San Antonio, but let's give her Nashville's best. It's a great eating city. Here's my one question I ask everybody in your position that you find your way to the South. Do you or do you not like sweet tea? Because this will tell me whether or not we can be friends.
I love me some sweet tea. Are you kidding me? I love me some sweet tea. And I love me some barbecue. Okay, down in Texas, we love our brisket, so I'm eager to try the ribs over here in Tennessee. A little bit more of a dry rub here is what I'm told. So can we go ahead and add barbecue places to that food list for me? That would be great.
All right, so hit her up @Jill Jelnick. Tell her all the great places to eat in Nashville, and just tell her what category. This is such a great city, and she's going to fit in well here. Jill, thank you for the time. And let's do this again real soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. You have a good one.
Appreciate it, Jill. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am. You can catch her on Fox 17, sports anchor and reporter @Jill Jelnick on Twitter. And again, tell her places to eat, places to go find a nice drink. You know, make her feel welcome in this beautiful city of Nashville. When we come back, there's some breaking news out of the AFC South. And it's not about the Titans, but it is about a quarterback of another team in the division. Titans fans are going to be interested to hear this. It's Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
Your home for the Titans in Music City.
Touchdown! Titans!
Is that way for many more years.
Ryan Tannehill!
104.5 The Zone.
Listen, everybody has got concerns with all those outdoor services outside your house. We all have them because we all got a driveway, a deck, a patio. We got that fence, walkways. You got the steps where they're kind of made out of brick. And anyway, what happens to all those things? The rain and the sun. at Jill Jelnick, double J, just like Jeff Jarrett. So you can remember that easily there. She also wants some food recommendations, so tell her where to go eat in Nashville. Carson Wentz may need some doctor recommendations. This from Adam Schefter, and I've seen it starting to bubble out of Indy this morning. Here's the latest from Adam Schefter, Mr. Music City Miracle truther, who thinks it was a forward pass, which you ding-dong, you goofball. There's 100 different angles of this play, so just stop the charade and stop acting. That's like me saying, the sun didn't come up this morning. I'm sitting in my room. I got foil over the windows. The sun didn't come up. Come on, man.
Someone's got to be there to hold Mickey back.
I just get PO'd every time I say his name. But Lucas sends me a tweet from him, which automatically ticks me off. And then I'm like, okay, I have to read this because this is pertinent information to Titans fans. But really? There's like all these people, Stephen Holder, there's all these people who cover the Colts. He sends me this from Adam Schefter. But I'm going to read it, Lucas. This is for you. Now you can see my face is all red because of Adam Schefter. This is for you, Lucas. Colts quarterback Carson Wentz is out indefinitely as he undergoes further testing on a foot injury that he suffered at the end of Thursday's practice. And here you go, Lucas, per Mike Wells. That's the Colts reporter. So next time, click right on through and let me not even think about Adam Schefter. I'd rather think about Mike Wells. He says second-year quarterback Jacob Eason took the starter reps today with Sam Ehlinger as his backup. Hey, man, if you're the Colts, Jacob Eason and Sam Ehlinger, Blaine, are you just call? Are you call? Yeah, from SEC's newest team, Texas. Are you not calling everybody right now who's like ever thrown a pass in the NFL, their agent, and saying, "I want Blake Bortles in for a tryout. I want the ghost of Johnny Unitas in for a tryout." I mean, are you not trying to get everybody you can? And who knows if this is serious or not? But if you had to say, because I'm going to take Deshaun Watson off the table because we don't even, who knows if he'll even get to play. And people can go back and listen to the podcast with Jill later, and she talked about that because she used to cover the Texans. Of all the guys that we know are going to play this year in the division, Carson Wentz is probably under the most pressure because the Colts have got a great team. Now, they got a couple of questions with the offensive line. Maybe the receivers are a little old, a little long in the tooth, but they got offense. I mean, they've got weapons. They're the other team that's supposed to challenge the Titans for the division. It all rests on the shoulders and now the foot of Carson Wentz. This is a heck of a development that's going on in Indy with a guy who's got a lot of pressure on him already.
Yeah, I'd love to know how the actual injury happened. Like, did he step on his foot? Was he outside the pocket running and landed funny? It kind of gives me a better idea. I want to be a doctor or a lawyer someday. So I want to be able to say, oh, yeah, that's what he has. Then guess what he had. And, through all the injuries that I've had or seen. So I have no idea the extent of it. So them, going on the waiver wire, looking for quarterbacks and everything else, there's plenty out there, even if you want to wait till some guys get cut or what have you. So not saying that I'm a cheerleader, but definitely, not cheering for anything about the Colts. That's for sure. My family still throws stuff in my face, with Colts gear on it and everything else. After I finished playing with the Titans, so that was horrible. So, hey, yeah, they need someone with experience if they're talking about going as far as they want to. But, hey, not forget, we got to see Eason a little bit there. He was at Georgia first, right? And then, until he got injured. And then, Ehlinger is a tough, thick, strong kid. You don't know what his future may hold as a starting quarterback. But if you keep giving him opportunities, he's somebody that could be a serious threat. He's probably built like Tim Tebow, but with an arm of, a little better arm. Let's just say that. He doesn't have the long release. Yeah, man. Hey, always, never good to hear good news about somebody getting injured. But, hey, whatever you can get, you take it. You always want to beat the Colts at their best. So yeah. I really want to see if he mentally can get back on the right track and stay healthy under Coach Frank Wright. Yeah, because he supposedly is the guru to get this guy unlocked since he's gotten locked up since he left from coaching in Philly.
Remember, Wentz was he was going to be that guy. He could run and he could throw. And, he was just going to be that guy. And he did have couple of years of that guy type play. Then he gets and here's the thing about GM Bishop, athletic director Bishop, never wants to give the contract too early. If you listen to the show, you know that. He may have gotten that contract way too early from the Eagles.
Absolutely did.
And now they had to eat that thing. General Manager Bishop it would have been an easy parting for General Manager Bishop because he would have still been on that rookie deal. Like, okay, yeah, here you go.
Yeah.
Have at it.
Yeah. The organization actually there in Philly, now that I have a little bit of background history there, they always, with young, good players, sign them early before their contracts are up, like the year before the contract's up. And he was playing phenomenal, and you could see his upside. And then once he got injured, the back, then the knee, then the downside, then they had, then he didn't play. Then he came back and played horribly. I don't want to put it all on him, but once you fray your offense, your quarterback and mentally, they didn't have a good line, all the injuries to the, receivers. I mean, it was a tough deal. And then you got to deal with the media there in Philly is, let's just say, not a city of brotherly love. Once again. So I don't know where that came from. I'd love to know. I'm sure somebody can call in and educate me on why they called that, but they are definitely not that to anybody that's outside of Philly. And then once you're not good enough for them, then they will turn on you. And I think that really just buried him mentally. And then, as an athlete, you're paying attention, but you're not hearing everything. But man, you start trying harder and pressing harder to do well, not only for yourself, but for the city. And it just didn't happen. So for whatever reason. So now he's in Indy and the injury history continues. So we shall see where they go. But I wouldn't put it past. Easton's a big, strong arm. Let's not forget his papa played in the NFL. And he wasn't too shabby, because if you start in the NFL at quarterback for a long period of time, you're pretty freaking good. So don't put it past. Hey, Easton, I know no experience. Well, guess what? When he plays the Titans, he'll have about 3 or 4 games of experience if Carson Wentz is not out there. So, yeah, man. They got a good running back, good running backs. So they can hold the fort with an, just a solid young quarterback if they have to.
By the way, a lot of people tweeting at the Colts telling them to pick up Nick Foles, saying it's worked one time before, so why not try
it? Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. He would know the playbook.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. There's some better quarterbacks out there. So hey, man, I may be better off. I want Carson Wentz out there. So, Winter.
We got to get to hour number 2. We'll hear from Mike Vrabel next. It's funny. You got to ask a question about national perception of the team and kind of blew it off. And then he said something that made me think he knows what the national perception is. We'll play that audio next. It's hour 2. Also, we'll hear from lawyer Dan Lust. He's been on the show before about all this stuff that's going on with the Big 12 and college football and how all that's going to work out. We'll get to all that next in hour number 2 of Blaine and Mickey. First, though, let's do this. My friend Dr. Lloyd is on the line with my great place that I love to tell you about, Cedar Recovery. And, Doc, you guys are trying to end this opioid addiction in Tennessee. Let's talk to people about methamphetamine and fentanyl. Let's educate the people.
Yeah, Mickey, the problem we're seeing right now is there is a lot of methamphetamine use going on in Tennessee, and people who are using it don't even realize there's fentanyl in it. And as you know, fentanyl is a stronger cousin to heroin, and so they wind up, when they stop methamphetamine, they get sick, and may or may not realize they were dealing with deadly fentanyl. So if we have anybody out there that's using methamphetamine, please know about that. And if you get sick when you stop taking it and need help, give us a call.
Dr. Lloyd, thank you as always. Love talking with you and getting your perspective. That's Dr. Stephen Lloyd of Cedar Recovery. They've got a location near you. They make same-day appointments. You can visit cedarrecovery.com, or you can call them now, 615-800-5330 to begin your journey to feel better, get better, and stay better. Cedar Recovery addiction treatment that works.
Ryan Tannehill, Julio Jones, and Derrick Henry. They live here. I mean, not really here in the building, but you know what we mean. On the Titans Station.
104.5 The Zone.
shooting through the atmosphere towards the weekend, right along with all of you, Blaine and Lucas. By the way, we had a big Blame Lucas segment earlier because he pressed the button and then he was talking in our ears. And then, like, he's doing all these things. He's sending me Adam Schefter tweets, which just really ticks me off. And now this. Here's the latest. So my son looks me dead in the eye, and he goes, I want a Ronaldo jersey. And I said, Ronaldo? And he goes, and he wears a Titans jersey almost every day. Like, he just asks for Titans jerseys. So today, or yesterday rather, he was Vince Young. He still has an old Vince Young jersey that one of his friends gave him that he proudly wears. Okay. So he said, I want a Ronaldo jersey. And I said, okay. And I said, well, which one? And he was dead serious. He said, his Jeep jersey. I said, his Jeep jersey. And he goes, Dad, Jeep. And he made, like, if you're on Zone TV, like he was driving a Jeep, which he's infatuated with Jeeps. So Lucas, I don't know if he likes Jeeps more or Ronaldo more, but he listens to the show sometimes when he's in the car. So he knows what's going on. So as you said earlier, hat tip to Jeep because advertising works. And B, all your soccer talk. And Blaine and me, we're all in, man. We like soccer too. But I got a kid who I think is about ready to play this game. So I got to learn a whole lot more. I got to drag his butt to a Nashville SC game coming up too.
Love to hear it. I love to hear it. Ronaldo plays for Juventus in Italy, whose sponsor is Jeep across the jersey. So it's Rabble, right?
Rabble.
So Rabble will be growing up playing soccer and driving Jeeps. Love to hear it. You guys should watch the U.S. men's national team final in the Gold Cup together on Sunday and the Nashville Soccer Club game.
What has gotten into the U.S. men? Were they favorites to do something in this Gold Cup, or are they playing above their heads right now?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, they're always a favorite to get to the final, but this is kind of a bit of a hodgepodge group. Not a lot of the A team, so to speak. A lot of BC guys as Berhalter tries to evaluate for the upcoming World Cup qualifiers. But it hasn't always been pretty, but they've gotten to the final. And look, USA-Mexico is always appointment television. I don't care if you like soccer, if you hate it, if you love it. It's always appointment television, especially in a final.
All right, I'm trying to catch up with the soccer, but who was that? The player that just signed they signed all this millions of dollars that he just signed for like last week or something? Who was that? I thought one of those guys signed like for I want to say it was Messi. Signed for like some crazy $400 million contract.
That's pretty routine. A guy like Ronaldo and Messi,
Lord.
that's somewhat routine. Like a guy like Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, he's the most followed person on Instagram.
Well, if my son had Instagram, he'd follow him.
Most followed person on Instagram. So guys like that, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah, it's nothing.
Are his posts on Instagram? Because I know you follow him. Is it like great team win today? The boys really booted it home, or is it like hair product recommendations from him and like pictures of him getting in his Lamborghini?
Posting. I guess when I was posting some stuff, I don't have to get the 400 million. I just get the 4 million.
Truthfully, I don't follow him, but he does have.
Oh man, you are a fake soccer person.
Because I don't even believe
this. What you're saying?
He's got 320 million Instagram followers. 320 million, and it's a lot of like training photos. I'm looking at it now, training photos, like modeling photos.
Man.
But yeah, it's a lot of stuff. But I love that. I appreciate that about Rabble, Mickey. That makes me happy.
Yeah,
literally, here's him selling cologne on here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Training videos, and they're all staged where he's like his hair is perfectly coiffed and he's okay. Well, I gotta buy a Jeep jersey for a 6-year-old.
Listen, so. he's like the Tom Brady of like international soccer as far as how old he is and looking like he's about 20. Like he's the guy that looks younger now that he's close to 40 than he did when he was 20, kind of like Brady. That's Cristiano Ronaldo.
Okay, so he doesn't eat like white bread or biscuits or drink sweet tea or anything like. Have you guys seen the Subway ad with Tom Brady?
Yes, it's
where
very
he walks
good.
in at the end and he's holding a sandwich, and Steph Curry goes, "Dude, you don't even eat this stuff," and he says, "It's a commercial." He admits that he doesn't eat it. Oh my gosh, that is fantastic stuff. All right, we teased this, so we got to play it, Blaine. So Mike Vrabel got asked today, like motivating factor, and it got into like national perception of the team. And all those guys like to poo-poo that. Like, we don't know. We don't care inside the building. But then he kind of adds something. Lucas, if you could play this, and it turns into a good long answer about a lot of different things. But Mike Vrabel on motivating factors. Here we go.
That can't be our motivating factor. You know what I mean? We've got a lot of work to do. this league is just so there's a fine line between winning and losing and having a great season and having a good season and having a poor season. So, we're going to focus on what's going on here and what's happening and how we have to improve and hopefully can string together. We're going to move on to third down. We know how big that is for us. That'll be our emphasis for this afternoon, this evening, in the walkthrough, and then hopefully we can come out and try to compete in some third down tomorrow.
All right, he didn't hit it. I think Lucas is looking for maybe the other part of the answer where he was talking about this. But he essentially said, Blaine, I mean, what? We're going to get picked 12 or 14 like we always do. And then, which I always wonder, because it gives us great stuff. And Lucas will look for that specific audio. But that's essentially what he said. We're always picked 12 to 14. It's fun for us to talk about. Like, oh, my gosh, the Titans got picked 12th or 14th or Tannehill's not in the top 10, but we always kind of think nobody down there really cares. But I would imagine that could be motivational as a player if you feel like somebody doesn't give your team or you at your position or your defense or offense, whatever it might be, enough respect. That kind of thing might motivate me if I heard it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It depends on what's your mental makeup and what gets your kitchen going and getting that fire lit. For me personally, it was always anything that slighted the team at any time, the Titans organization at any time, because, a lot of people that's covering teams, they're kind of looking at names and rosters. That's, and they think, okay, this probably is the better team. And you say, well, they probably are better, but this other team over here, the Titans, they got a whole bunch of, put on the hard hat, and they got a couple superstars. I mean, you better watch out for this team. They have a better nucleus and they play as a team. And so that's what I love about football. You don't have to have the best players. Remember, I brought that up, like, typically when you put a superstar football team together, it's not like NBA. You got to be able to gel, and everybody has to have their role, and you have to relish your role and don't get out of it, and sometimes play better in your role if called upon. So that's what I love about team sports.
Right.
Oh yeah, I would use it all the time. I would try to take anything, whether media, whether player, if it even hinted at anything that myself or any of the players or the team weren't very good. I would be lit. A matter of fact, I might have been sometime when I go out there and start hitting people at practice. They go, "Damn, what's wrong with him?" Yeah, well, that day I read something that I ain't like. Whether it was about me personally or about what they said about the team. And I felt like y'all should be taking it just like I do. And then they would look at me like, "Nah, we don't take it that way." I go, "Well, that's the problem right there. You should be." Yeah. Yeah. That is the problem. All this goo and laughing and crap doing walkthrough. You need to be focused on what you're doing. They ever thinking we're a piece of crap. I don't know about you, but I've never been part of a piece of crap. They didn't say that, actually. They didn't say we're a piece of crap. No, that's what I turned it into. They said we were 15 and that's a piece of crap.
Right.
At the end of the day, they crapped on us. So yeah, I think Lucas has the you have the Vrabel response here. Here we go. Set it up.
Oh, I mean, I think that we're in the National Football League. We get it's an honor and a privilege to play in this league. The preseason power rankings are out. We're probably in our normal customary spot, anywhere from 14 to 12, normally where we land every year.
Oh, I don't pay any attention to that stuff, but we're usually 14 to 12. I love it, man. Hey, you don't play as long as he did without being motivated. I mean, that dude, he had to fight for a spot in the league. Then he goes to Patriots, and that's a fight every day probably to keep what you're keeping up there. And then to be a championship caliber player and to be a really great, good to great player on those teams. I think he made a Pro Bowl up there. So good enough, great enough. Yeah. Then he goes to Kansas City and finished out his career. And by that time, he's the older veteran. He's teaching the young guys. Let me tell you something. You got to have some motivation to do that. You know what's going on, or you don't have the career that guy had. So he's still got one eye on that stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. That's why I said it's your mental makeup, and especially to that blue collar, regardless if you're a starter or backup guy that, this really good player, and you start in this league, you're a really good player, but you have to have that edge to you to be able to, play at that level each and every snap of your career. And Vrabel was one of those guys. And that's the only difference between me and his career is that he got him some Super Bowl rings. And I did not. So, and he had Tom Brady. Yeah. But
Which is,
I think Vrabel pays attention. And as a head coach, it's probably somebody telling him something, and then he kind of looks into it, and but because he's focused on trying to get the team better, the players better individually, and make sure that he's on top of all the things that he needs to do to be successful as a coach. And I think that's one thing you can tell about Vrabel. That's where the player mindset comes into play. Is I think he evaluates himself weekly and daily about things that he could do better to actually help the team, just like a player would. And I think that's very beneficial. And that keeps an open mind and being very critical on you as a coach, just like you are as a player, because nobody can be more critical of yourself than you as a player. So when a coach is in there MFing me the whole time, I'm thinking, well, dude, hey, I'm disappointed in myself right there on that too. That will never happen again. I don't even need you to tell me that. So, but they got to do their job. And I think that's what Vrabel does. And I think that's why he's had a lot of success early in his head coaching career already, and having that kind of open mindset to reevaluate and not to think, oh, I've arrived and now I'm a head coach and I can sit back and relax. I think he continues to do that daily.
All right. Normally, Buck Rising joins us on Friday, courtesy of our friends.
Ditched us?
He's ditched us.
Oh, man.
Yep. He stuck him out there in a tent all week, and he
crapped on us.
He sure did.
Yep. Now, you know what I just said about people crapping on us.
Yeah, we take notes. Yeah, we remember.
We take notes. Yeah, I don't even see Lucas trying to come to his defense either.
No, he's looking at him like, hey, man, my microphone button doesn't work.
He's out there hobnobbing with the big wigs. He's out there, got a tan on. He got his old visor on backwards right now. His beard is glistening.
Flamingo shirt. His beard is glistening. Well, he is normally brought to you by.
Hey, man, he better make sure he got his britches up there, man. Don't get too big for yourself now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
His work uncles keep notes. Normally, Buck is on with us, brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, home of the non-commissioned salespeople. No Buck this week. We had Jill Jelnick from Fox 17. And coming up next, it's like we don't have Buck. We'll get a lawyer in here. Dan Lust set to join us at Sports Law Lust on Twitter. This dude's going to break down everything that's going on with the Big 12 and ESPN tampering and the Cleveland Guardians not owning their own website. Yeah, there's a lot to get to next with Dan Lust on Blaine and Mickey.
The 3HL, by any means necessary.
By any means necessary. Defense, scoring, taking people out, whatever it is, it's on. You got to win, and it's going down.
The 3HL with Brent Doherty, Don Davenport, and Ron Slay. This afternoon starting at 3, 104.5, The Zone.
How many nasty waiting rooms have you walked Guardians is related to the city or not. But so I don't know who did that. Somebody made a huge boo-boo. And to me, that's where your lawyers and everybody else needs to be coming in. That was not. I don't know if that was fan friendly and that's what they wanted to go in. They didn't check, but man, that was somebody made a grave mistake there without checking. So I guess I'll let Dan tell us once Mickey introduces him.
Yes, Dan Lust at Sports Law Lust. Dan, I was seeing how busy you were. Then you were so busy, like your phone was blowing up and we lost you there for a second. But let me ask you this. As a lawyer, would you recommend Googling before you change your mascot name just to maybe see if it's actually available in your market?
I think so. And I think you're right. My phone is just so hot from all these calls. It literally just imploded for a split second. But yeah, I mean, here's like the real question. Like you guys know I was joking, right? Like, did they Google it? I'm sure they Googled it, but that leads you to probably a worse scenario. If you knew that the Cleveland Guardians had a website and there was a roller team in your own backyard, and I'm sure they'd love like a $20,000 check, why wouldn't you offer it to them? And why wouldn't you settle that before you announce the name? Because now, right, you have no leverage. Even if you're $1 billion baseball team, you need the website. Go to Yankees.com, go to RedSox.com, go to any Major League Baseball team, and it gives you that website. So, yeah, I don't know how they get around not cutting a blank check here. I think the Guardians, the roller derby Guardians, the OG Guardians, have all the leverage in the world.
So let me ask you, what might something like that have cost, or could it have been like, maybe if it's a one-time fee, if it's a small usage fee that you pay every year, something like that, versus like what kind of big check do you think we're looking at now or for perpetuity?
So I guess I'm going to give you guys an exclusive. I spoke to the person with the roller derby team that bought the website back in 2014 for $10. And I mean, this is legitimately $10. I saw the receipt. So, I mean, what does something like this go for? There's not that many comparables. We don't know this, but I remember a couple of years ago, and maybe you guys will remember, the Dallas Cowboys used to control Cowboys.com, and they let it lapse, and someone else bought it out from under them. And I think the number was in the mid-six figures. But that's Cowboys.com. It's a Dallas Cowboys. Cleveland Guardians, right? I don't know. It's a roller derby team. Like they'd love like $50,000, right? But now that they have all the leverage, like what incentive do they have for going away for a number that's, six figures, seven figures? They kind of call the shots here.
Ooh, Dan Lust at Sports Law Lust on Twitter, calling the shots with Blaine and Mickey right now.
Yeah, Dan, since we're talking about things that are a little confusing and kind of boggle the brain, I'm not a lawyer, so that's why we're talking to someone who's a lot smarter than us, and that's you, Dan. Tell us why Deshaun Watson's case is not in criminal court with so many allegations and still in civil court.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess a couple things. So people know the difference, I hope, between civil and criminal cases. Civil case is about money. A criminal case is about if you're going to go to jail, right, if you're going to have to be on probation, but some type of, like, punishment, non-monetary punishment. Sometimes you also have to pay a fine, but it's more just like a crime, right? You know when you see it, felonies, misdemeanors, violations. So, yeah, in order to bring a civil case, that just involves someone filing a lawsuit. Anybody can be sued for anything, and anybody can bring a lawsuit. It's another question of whether or not you're going to win. So these 20-plus women that have these allegations against Deshaun Watson, they can bring a civil case, right? All they have to do is hire a lawyer and file some pieces of paper. Criminal case requires an independent third party, that's the district attorney's office working with the police, to agree to file charges. Now, just bear with me for a second. Civil cases that anybody can file at any point in time, the burden of proof there is like a coin flip. It's basically 51%. If you prove guilt by 51%, a preponderance of the evidence, you win your case. Now, over in the criminal court, it requires something a little bit higher, something called beyond a reasonable doubt. Everyone's heard that on Law and Order, but that kind of means something like you have to prove guilt by like 90%, 85, 90%, a lot. So that's how, guys, and obviously you guys know the OJ case, right? He was found innocent in criminal court because maybe you didn't get all the way up to 90%, maybe you got to 75%. But in civil court, he was found liable and had to, pay all that money and give over his Heisman Trophy and all that stuff. So right now, I think the DA's office is struggling as to whether they can get to 90%. The DA's office is not going to take the case unless they feel pretty confident they could get there. So that's why you have all these civil cases percolating, and people are trying to say behind the scenes, hey, if 20 civil cases, like why hasn't the DA's office taken the case? What more could come out that could lead them to take the case that hasn't already come out? So I think it's a fair point. I think it's premature to say that Watson is not going to get charged criminally, but fair that we haven't had anything and it's been a couple months.
Okay, now Dan, one with Dan Lutz, sports attorney for everywhere in the world, pretty much, CBS, Fox Sports. But I guess put this in, you're in the sheriff's position and Roger Goodell. How would you go about, if you were going to suspend or not suspend, or will you just kind of let it play out like it's playing and let the criminal, justice system kind of take its course?
So here's where I find it so fascinating. Goodell hasn't done anything. He's just kind of sat there. I was thinking he was going to wait to make a decision until Watson reported to camp. And then Watson reported it, and Goodell basically said, we're not doing anything yet. So the reason I find it a little odd, across the pond in Major League Baseball, they're dealing with somewhat of a similar sexual assault allegation with Trevor Bauer, another high-level player, another guy paid millions of dollars, reigning Cy Young Award winner. He's charged with sexual assault, some really messy allegations. But what did Rob Manfred do? I make fun of Rob Manfred a lot, but I think he probably did the right thing here. Trevor Bauer was supposed to pitch on July 4th weekend, and Dave Roberts, manager over at the Dodgers, said, what are we going to do? He's got to pitch. I don't know, unless Major League Baseball does something, who are we to say he can't pitch? So Manfred came in and took the decision out of the Dodgers' hands and put him on something called the administrative leave list. It's basically like paid leave. You're not suspended, but you can't play, but you're going to get paid in full by your team. The NFL's version of that, Blaine, as you know, is called the commissioner's exempt list. Same concept, same exact thing. You get put on paid leave while an investigation is ongoing. So Manfred did it, and I don't know, it's not binding, obviously, on Goodell. It's a different sport. But public relations-wise, optics-wise, I would find it very odd if Manfred did that to Bauer and Goodell did not do that to Watson. Watson's got 20 cases. I mean, it's kind of unprecedented to have that many cases and not face some type of discipline, and also kind of unprecedented to have that many cases and for no crime to result. So I think there's a lot of trends and signs pointing to at least a trip to the commissioner's exempt list. We'll see if a crime or a suspension occurs, but I'm still predicting a trip to the commissioner's exempt list for Watson.
Well, with Dan Lutz, sports attorney for ESPN, CBS, and Fox Sports.
Dan, and I appreciate all this transparency, basically, that you're giving us non-attorneys. I appreciate it. So for a Texans fan or a Titans fan who's just curious with what happens with the Texans. So, I mean, on the eve of the season, if nothing's happened, if you're Deshaun Watson and his lawyer, do you just go try to settle with everybody, or do you wait it out? Like, what's a timeline until there's some kind of a resolution for all of these cases, and then things can further take their course with more or less discipline or whatever from the league?
Yeah, it's the timing question is the fascinating one here. So, if he settles the cases, doesn't mean he's going to not get punished. It doesn't mean that he's not going to get charged in criminal court. So keep that in mind. Settling the cases doesn't end potentially criminal court or suspension. It just kind of speeds up the time frame. So let's say you had one case and there was only one, civil sexual assault case. Similar, just any type of one civil case. So you don't have to be sexual assault. Cases generally take at least a year to go from beginning to end, and that's on a normal discovery track. Discovery is a fancy term to say, like, you're exchanging photographs and direct messages and any type of evidence that could be secured. And then you have something called the deposition. So people have seen the Social Network movie. I know we've seen the Office episode when they have the deposition, like a sworn testimony, but in like a kind of conference room. It's not a trial. So here, right, they didn't do the normal discovery track. Like you do discovery for a couple months and then you have depositions. Deshaun Watson's lawyers seem to have asked for a deposition date after the next Super Bowl. So that's in February of 2022. So that's the date that the depositions are going to occur. Trial, I don't think, would occur for another couple of months after that. So you're looking at least a year from today for a case to reach resolution. And mind you guys, that's only one case. Now, there's obviously 20 of these cases, a little bit less, and the number's kind of fluctuating. But when it gets to trial, you don't try cases all at the same time. You try them back to back to back to back to back. You do all of them, in a row. And the trial could take a week to do. You have 20 trials, that's another 20 weeks. And, I'll just kind of take you kind of in the eye of the storm. I've told you that these civil cases are kind of like a coin flip. It's kind of a he said, she said deal, right? Was there consent or was there not consent? So, I don't know, it's kind of like a 50-50 deal, right? We'll see what type of evidence comes out. But Watson can be one of these, right? It's a coin flip, 50-50. But just mathematically, it's very hard to beat all of these cases back to back to back to back. And mind you, right, imagine Watson at trial. Imagine the images that come out from that, and him doing the walk in the suit in court, into court. I can't see it happening. I really can't. I think it's in his interest to get these resolved and avoid kind of making testimony under oath. But if he wants to fight it, this thing's not going to go away. I'll put it at a year. If he really wants to fight it, a year and change.
Oh, my goodness. Dan Lust, our guest. Let me ask you this. A bunch of us are learning new legal jargon and legal terms like L. Woods that we can use in everyday life as a result of all this going on in the sports world. What is tortious interference, and has ESPN done this particular heinous act to the Big 12, in your opinion?
Those are some big words. Those are some very big words. What, like it's hard to go to Harvard Law School? I know my L. Woods folks here, you guys. So yeah, I'll give you the Oklahoma, Texas, and the SEC Big 12. Those the buzzwords here for legal wise. Big 12 sends a cease and desist letter. People kind of know what that means. It means stop or else. If you do the thing that we're accusing you of doing, if you do it again, we're going to sue you. So here's the allegation, and I'm sure everyone listening to this kind of knows the gist of it. But Bob Bowlesby, commissioner of the Big 12, sends a letter to ESPN. It says cease and desist, and the accusation is something called tortious interference. Fancy term. It's not that complicated, but I'll kind of walk you through it. Let's say person A works for a company, right? We'll say the company is called Company B. So person A has a contract with Company B, and all of a sudden, we'll say C, just like some random guy, helps person A break his contract with Company B. That's something called tortious interference. The C guy helped A breach his contract. So B would go after the person that breached their contract, that's A, but they would also sue this third party, C, who helped them break the contract, almost like a facilitator, almost like a broker, someone that's helping you do something, to go after them. So that's the gist of this lawsuit. The cease and desist. Bowlesby is saying that ESPN was trying to help these remaining Big 8 schools, not Oklahoma and Texas, the other 8, helping them try to go to a different conference. And that, at least according to sources, is the AAC, trying to make a play to pick up these remaining Big 12 schools. Massive allegation. I don't know if the lawsuit is imminent. I just know that you don't threaten that. It's kind of unprecedented for a conference commissioner to threaten a lawsuit against a multi-million-dollar media entity. It's just kind of unheard of.
No doubt. Dan Lust, our guest at Sports Law Lust on Twitter. You got to follow him now.
I guess, Dan, it's all, I don't know how deeply you've dove into this with the Texas going and Oklahoma going to the SEC, but what could they do to get out of the contract of the Big 12 sooner than later with the least amount of penalty? I know they're talking about this 70, 80 million or what have you, but is there any way they can get out of it before 2025 and play in the SEC, and what would that look like?
Well, Blaine, you asked me if there's any way. There's a really messy way, but it's, I think, the way that Oklahoma have envisioned. Bob Bowlesby is the commissioner. I think he kind of hit the nail on the head and is calling out Texas and Oklahoma for exactly what their plan is. He had a kind of a loaded quote to a reporter last night, but he essentially said Texas and Oklahoma's plan is to both and create so much instability in their wake to basically make the conference fold. And that's why I think Bowlesby's kind of coming out swinging and basically telling people, hey, back off my schools, stop going after them. If the Big 12 does implode behind Oklahoma and Texas, all that would require, right, 2 other schools or maybe 3 other schools to say we're going to do the exact thing that Texas and Oklahoma are doing. We're going to leave, right, at some point when our rights expire, we'll leave. I'll just kind of give you a little bit of issue spotting. The Big Ten's grant of rights, similar to the Big 12 deal, Big 12 expires in 2025. My understanding is that the Big Ten's contract for grant of rights expires in 2023. So when they renew with the new television network, they're going to want to have all the schools on board. So if the Big Ten goes to 16 teams, right? They kind of have to do it in the next year or so, just the way the timing works out. So if you're a Iowa State, right, or you're Kansas, kind of geographically close to the Big Ten, do you want to be left holding the bag when the conference realignment musical chairs go up? You're probably going to make the same calls that Oklahoma and Texas did. So if the Big 12 ceases to exist prior to 2025, then seemingly no payment obligations by Texas and Oklahoma. That's why if you read their joint statement, which was very odd that Texas and Oklahoma, two schools that are rivals, send out a joint statement to the press that they're going to leave. They're going to explore their options in 2025. I think it was a brilliant maneuver to basically say, hey, we're not going to do anything wrong, but guys, if everyone wants to go their separate ways, we're good with that too.
Well, real quick though, I know we got to go, but Notre Dame, BYU, these independents, what do you think is going to happen with those universities? They could, I guess, hold pat and not do anything, especially a big brand like Notre Dame, but would that be advantageous for them down the road?
We'll see. I mean, I'm just seeing that there's all this talk about, reshuffling if the Big 12 really goes under, right? Keep in mind, guys, like there has to be some type of conference realignment. SEC is going to have 16. Big 12 is only going to have 8. And the Big 10 is trying to keep pace with the SEC, right? They have 14. They want to get to 16. I can't see a world where we don't see more schools move. 2011, 2012, as you guys know, was the last episode of conference realignment. And one school moves and it sets off this pattern across the country. So whether it's BYU, maybe going to the Big 12, or, Notre Dame going to the ACC, I could see it, but we're about to see a ton of moves here. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Ooh.
Dan, great stuff, man. Thanks for taking a bunch of really complicated stuff and making it so simple that even us two dummies could understand it. Well, Blaine's not a dummy. He's actually a doctor on TV.
Yeah.
But, Dan, thank you. People need to follow you now at Sports Law Lust. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
My pleasure, guys. And shout out to Van Santos, a big fan of the show, a fellow lawyer in your part, Nashville.
Love it. Shout out to everybody. Yeah, absolutely. We'll get you on again soon because the sports world and the law world just keep colliding.
Yeah.
And they just don't stop.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll get you on again, Dan, to talk about Tier Tart. Oh, that's it.
Anytime.
Thank you, Dan. All right, we'll come back. We'll finish up the show. We'll call our shots next week. You want to jump in 615-737-1045 on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline.
Jay Martin Ramon. Just say it how you wanna.
Talk about a lot of things that are happening down on Rocky Top. Yeah, I said down. I know it's over on Rocky Top.
Screw it. Say how you want to.
I don't care.
We do not care.
Jay Martin Ramon. Jason Martin and Ramon Foster. Monday mornings starting at 6 on 104.5 The Zone.
PFF is saying the Colts, because if you just joined us or you don't have internet, Carson Wentz hurt his foot. Nobody knows how bad it is. Everybody's got theories. Sam Munson just said, why not just get Marcus Mariota? Titans fans, you talk about being in your feelings. If you saw Marcus Mariota, and I don't care how he played and how it ended, that is a beloved man in this city. When he was having his one game for the Raiders last year, people lost their minds here. Blaine, if that rascal trotted out in a Colts uniform, I mean, that would be like when Darth Vader was like, I am your father. I mean, that would be like, what? What? That would flip people on their upside downs. I'll just say it like that.
Yeah, that just flipped me upside down. Just like that. That was pretty good. And unfortunately, and I always would say this, he's such a great guy, and you wish him all the best. But when he's playing the Titans, I wish him the worst. Sorry. Yeah, no doubt about it. So if they want to trade for him, go ahead. I hope they get the worst version that he ever was for the Titans. That's how much I want the Titans to win over, an actual player. Wish him the best, stay healthy and all that. But no, I don't want anything to do with the Colts and beating the Titans. They've done enough of that. Yeah, for enough. For some generations now.
Yeah, it's time to reopen that can.
And Peyton Manning and some guy named Luck who didn't need any luck.
And the 1 year that you sucked for Luck. Like they were great. Then the 1 year they have the problem. Oh, Luck's available. This is going to work out great.
Yeah. But hey, all I can say is Marcus Mariota is a heck of a competitor. And the game that we saw that he was talking, Mickey was talking about, I think was it against the Chargers? I forget who it was against.
Oh, I think that's right.
Phenomenal. I mean, the best version I ever saw him. And he got rest. He got his body back right. And he looked like what you thought he would be. And I thought Derek Carr would no longer be the quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders at that point in time after that game. And he got healed real quick from a growing strain, brain. Yeah, it was odd because they said he was going to miss 2 or 3 games, and he played that next game.
Oh, somebody, Mr. Miyagi, that rascal's groin. I mean, like, pow!
All I can say is I've never seen anyone, and I mean anyone, ever throw the ball to themselves and score. Marcus Mariota.
Sure did. Wasn't that in a postseason game too?
Chiefs game.
Yeah, the Chiefs.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I'm saying that. Yeah. It was in a postseason game. My man threw himself a playoff touchdown pass.
That's phenomenal.
All right. Lucas is about to start giving us the wrap-up signal, so we got to call our shot, but I just had to throw that out there in the universe. So if you want to tweet at Sam and tell him no thank you, you can do that. Like Luke, you can say, no! Normally we call our shot, but I've already called my shot because I went on the show yesterday and said, if I'm the Titans, I'm going to call James Wilhoit. He's right down the street. Mike Vrabel today at the end of his presser. The Kickers are working with James. Oh, yeah, by the way, we just hired James Wilhoit. Bye. See y'all. Yeah.
Drop
Finish
Mike?
the show, Blaine. Yeah. Drop this. I can't drop it. It's on a stand. I would drop this sucker if I could.
Well, since I was on the show with you, I'll just drop it with you then. Okay. Hey,
Lucas. All right, Lucas, you got a shot you want to call on the way out?
USA Mexico Gold Cup Finals Sunday night. USA winners.
That was so inspiring.
Yeah. What a way to send us into the weekend.
Man, you did not inspire us. Well, guess what? I'm going to give a shot then. Marcus Mariota will be in a Colts uniform. And I can't wait for that happen.
Oh, 3HL is next. They can take the ball and run with that.
Yeah. Blaine and Mickey show. Have a great weekend. Peace.
Yeah.
It's been the home of the Titans for a long time and many more years to come.
Sack! Jeffrey Simmons is there.
Hear every play on 101.